The chandelier above me was a vintage crystal masterpiece imported from Vienna, casting a fractured, golden light across the grand hall of the Rosewood estate. I knew its exact appraised value, $84,500, a piece I had personally selected at an auction 2 years ago. But to my mother, standing just a few feet away with a flute of vintage champagne, it was merely another opulent prop to elevate her fragile social standing. I stood silently near the velvet-draped entrance, wearing a simple, unbranded navy dress that cost exactly $45. My sister, Chloe, the radiant bride-to-be, was holding court in the center of the room. She was draped in a custom-fitted silk gown that my parents had quietly taken out a $40,000 second mortgage to afford. They wanted the illusion of absolute wealth. The Rosewood estate was the most exclusive wedding venue in the state. A single weekend booking started at $150,000. My parents had spent months boasting about securing the location through elite connections. In reality, the venue manager had bumped them to the top of the list on my direct, encrypted orders. I had waived the standard deposit entirely out of my own pocket. My current checking account balance sat at $42,750,900.25. But to my family, I was just Sarah, the struggling event planner who scraped by in a cramped studio apartment. Can you believe the detailing on these centerpieces? My Aunt Linda shrieked, her voice echoing off the Italian marble floor. Chloe, darling, your taste is exquisite. It must have taken you months to design this. Chloe offered a practiced laugh, her diamond ring catching the light. I just have an eye for luxury, Aunt Linda. I told the design team exactly what I wanted, and they executed my vision. I refused to settle. I took a slow, deliberate sip of my ice water. The floral arrangement was a design I had personally sketched out at 2 a.m. 3 weeks prior. Chloe hadn't designed a single element. She had pointed at a magazine, and I instructed my staff to materialize it. My mother finally noticed me lingering in the shadows. Her forced smile dissolved into a tight grimace. She marched over, her heels clicking aggressively against the polished stone, cutting through the soft jazz. "Sarah," she hissed, a venomous whisper. "What on earth are you wearing? I told you, this was a black tie rehearsal. You look like a maid." "It is a formal dress, Mother," I replied, my tone flat, perfectly level. I did not break eye contact. "It is an embarrassment," Chloe chimed in, joining the assault. She looked me up and down with undisguised disgust. "This is the most important weekend of my life. Richard's family flew in from old money. I can't have you lingering around looking like a charity case. It's pathetic. Your floral arrangements cost $12,500, I stated calmly. You are standing in a venue that requires a flawless pedigree. I am simply observing." "You aren't observing anything," my mother snapped. "We told Richard's parents you were part of the hired help to save face." I felt the ice-cold water hit the back of my throat. "You told your future in-laws that I am the hired help?" "It was the only logical explanation," Chloe sneered. "Just leave, Sarah. I'm revoking your invitation to the ceremony tomorrow." "Security." A burly guard materialized instantly. "Yes, ma'am, please escort this woman off the property," Chloe ordered. "She is no longer on the guest list." I looked at the security guard. He was a new hire, unaware of my face. I could have pulled up the master deed to the Rosewood estate on my phone. But I didn't. I placed my glass on a passing tray with a soft, final clink. "That won't be necessary," I said, my voice as cold as the marble beneath our feet. "I know the way out." I walked toward the heavy oak doors, leaving them to revel in their borrowed castle. The rain had just begun to mist as I slid into the driver's seat of my 2011 Honda Civic. It was a reliable, rusted machine, entirely invisible in the sprawling sea of luxury SUVs and imported sports cars that filled the Rosewood Estate's VIP parking lot. I did not turn the ignition immediately. Instead, I retrieved my encrypted tablet from the glove compartment and tapped into the venue's internal security network. The high-definition feed of the Grand Hall flared to life on my screen. Through the silent, unblinking lens, I watched my mother clinking glasses with Richard's mother, a woman dripping in inherited pearls. Chloe was holding court once again, gesturing grandly toward the soaring architectural archways. I could read her lips perfectly. "It took me months to find this place," she was mouthing. playing the role of the visionary bride to perfection. They were utterly intoxicated by the illusion of their own grandeur, entirely oblivious to the foundation of sand they were currently standing on. I pulled up the management portal for Rosewood Holdings LLC. The master ledger loaded in a fraction of a second. There it was, contract #height 842. Client, Chloe Hastings, total balance due, $150,000 for the venue, plus a $50,000 security deposit. Beside those figures, a green tag glowed brightly on the screen, waiver authorized, owner override. My finger hovered over the glass display. I felt no rage, no boiling resentment. I felt only the cold, mechanical precision of a ledger balancing itself. They had revoked my invitation because I did not fit their manufactured aesthetic. It was only logical that I revoke my financial grace because they did not meet my standards of basic human decency. Tap. Revoke waiver. Tap. Reinstate immediate balance. The green tag vanished instantly, replaced by a glaring red overdue notification. The automated system immediately generated an invoice for $200,000 payable upon receipt via certified wire transfer. Standard operating procedure dictated that if an overdue balance was not cleared within 12 hours of the event start time, the property would be locked down. The wedding ceremony was scheduled for 2 p.m. tomorrow. The trap was set, legally binding and inescapable. I slept soundly that night in my 600-square-foot apartment, the hum of the city acting as a comforting white noise. At precisely 8:15 a.m. the next morning, my secure line rang. It was Marcus, the senior estate manager for Rosewood. "Good morning, Miss Hastings," his polished voice came through the speaker. "I apologize for the early intrusion, but the system flagged an overnight change to the Hastings-Sterling wedding contract. The owner waiver was removed. The $200,000 balance is now severely past due." "There is no error, Marcus," I replied, pouring exactly 8 ounces of black coffee into my ceramic mug. "The waiver was a courtesy. That courtesy has officially expired." "Understood, ma'am," Marcus said, not missing a single beat. He was a seasoned professional who never questioned the owner's directives. "The bridal party is scheduled to arrive at 9 a.m. for hair and makeup in the master suite. How would you like me to proceed?" "Enforce standard policy," I instructed, taking a slow sip. The coffee was bitter, dark, and perfect. "No payment, no access. Lock the perimeter gates. If they cannot produce a certified wire transfer for the full amount by 10 a.m., cancel the vendors and clear the property. And if they cause a disturbance, ma'am, you have security," I said flatly. "Use them." At 9:05 a.m., I opened my laptop and connected to the gatehouse camera. A rented stretch limousine had just pulled up to the wrought iron main gates of the Rosewood estate. The massive iron doors, usually wide open to welcome high-paying guests, were firmly shut. A digital access denied flashed brightly on the intercom panel. Chloe, already wearing a silk robe embroidered with the word bride, stepped out into the damp morning air. Her face twisted in furious confusion as she began jamming her perfectly manicured finger into the call button repeatedly. I watched the chaos unfold through the high-definition feed. Chloe was screaming into the intercom, her flawless makeup beginning to crack under the strain of the humid morning air. "Do you know who I am? Open this gate immediately. My fiancé's family is arriving in an hour." Marcus's voice, filtered through the external speakers, was a masterclass in professional detachment. "Ma'am, the system requires a certified wire transfer of $200,000 to unlock the premises. Your contract is currently in default." Chloe kicked the wrought iron gate, a sharp metallic clang echoing through the audio feed. My burner phone buzzed against the cheap laminate of my kitchen counter. It was my mother. I let it ring 3 times before sliding the green icon. "Sarah!" she shrieked, the panic in her voice raw and unpolished. "There is some catastrophic error at the Rosewood. The gates are locked, and some idiot manager is demanding $200,000. You work in this industry. Call whoever you need to call and fix this right now. Richard's parents are en route." "I was escorted off the property yesterday, Mother," I replied, my tone perfectly even. "I am no longer involved." "Don't you dare play games with me today," she snapped. "Your sister's future is at stake. Get down here immediately and sort this out, or you are completely dead to this family." I ended the call. I didn't bother changing out of my gray sweatpants and oversized university hoodie. I grabbed my keys. It was time to clear the ledger. I drove the speed limit, enjoying the rhythmic thud of my rusted windshield wipers. 20 minutes later, my 2011 Honda Civic rattled up the sweeping driveway, pulling to a halt directly behind the gleaming white stretch limousine. The rain had intensified, drumming heavily against my roof. I stepped out into the downpour, the cold water instantly soaking through my cotton hoodie. My mother and Chloe whipped around. The relief on their faces morphed instantly into sheer disgust when they saw my attire. "Are you out of your mind?" Chloe shrieked, clutching her silk robe tight against the chill. "You show up to my wedding looking like a homeless person. Tell them to open the gates, Sarah. Tell them you work here." I didn't look at her. I walked past the screaming bride and approached the reinforced glass of the security booth. Marcus stood inside, impeccably dressed in his tailored charcoal suit. As I approached, he immediately stepped out into the rain, opening a massive black golf umbrella and holding it steadily over my head. "Good morning, Miss Hastings," Marcus said loudly, his voice carrying easily over the storm. "I have the updated ledgers prepared for your review. The perimeter remains fully secured as per your morning directive." My mother froze. The color drained from Chloe's face, leaving her looking hollow and ghost-like. "Her directive," my mother stammered, pointing a trembling finger at my soaked sweatpants. "Marcus, she is a low-level event planner. She doesn't have any directives. Tell him." "Sarah." I pulled my encrypted tablet from my waterproof bag. I tapped the screen, bringing up the master deed and the banking interface, and turned it toward the screen glowed brilliantly against the gray morning. "Rosewood Holdings LLC is a private entity," I stated clearly, my eyes locking onto my mother's terrified gaze. "I am the sole proprietor. I own the grounds you are standing on. I own the archways you bragged about. And as of 8:15 a.m., I own the $200,000 debt you currently cannot pay. You are trespassing on my property." The silence that followed was absolute, broken only by the relentless sound of the rain hitting the asphalt. A sleek silver Bentley pulled up behind my rusted Civic, its engine a low, powerful purr against the storm. The unmistakable crest of Richard's family was discreetly embossed on the license plate. Richard and his parents stepped out into the rain, immediately shielded by their private driver's oversized golf umbrellas. They stopped dead in their tracks. They stared at the towering locked gates, the glaring red overdue notice flashing rhythmically on the digital security display, and my mother, who was now trembling uncontrollably in the middle of the driveway. "Chloe, what exactly is the meaning of this?" Richard's father demanded, his voice echoing with generations of inherited authority and complete intolerance for public embarrassment. "Why are we standing in the pouring rain, and why is the venue demanding a $200,000 wire transfer? I was assured your family handled the logistics." Chloe choked on a ragged sob, her waterproof mascara finally failing and bleeding down her pale cheeks in dark, jagged lines. She lunged toward me, completely abandoning her poised bride persona. Her manicured hands grasped desperately at the wet fabric of my cheap cotton hoodie. "Sarah, please. You can't do this to me. I'm your sister. We are blood. Just push the button on your tablet. Let us in. I will apologize for everything I said yesterday. I'll do whatever you want." I stepped back with a smooth, deliberate motion, allowing her hands to fall away empty. Marcus instantly adjusted the umbrella, ensuring not a single drop of rain touched my shoulder. "You did not apologize yesterday when you commanded security to escort me out of my own building," I stated coldly, my voice loud and clear enough for Richard's entire family to hear perfectly. "You revoked my invitation because I did not fit the visual aesthetic of your manufactured wealth. You claimed I was the hired help to save face in front of your future in-laws. And technically, you were correct. I am the one who hired the help." Richard's mother gasped audibly, her hand flying to her double strand of Mikimoto pearls. She turned a furious glare on my mother. "You lied to us? You don't have exclusive rights to this venue. She doesn't even have the $50,000 security deposit," I informed the wealthy matriarch, keeping my eyes firmly locked on Chloe's horrified, ruined face. "My current checking account balance is $42 million. I waived their venue fees entirely because they are blood. But blood does not entitle you to my assets, nor does it magically excuse your profound cruelty. My mother literally dropped to her knees right there on the wet asphalt, staining her designer slacks. "Sarah, please. We will pay you back every cent. We will sell the house if we have to. Please, just open the gates. Don't ruin her life. The house is already mortgaged to its absolute limit just to pay for that silk dress," I replied flatly, stripping away their final illusion. I turned to my estate manager. "Marcus, maintain the complete lockdown. If anyone attempts to scale the gates or harass the staff, call the local authorities immediately." I turned my back on them without another word. The chaotic sound of Chloe wailing into the rain and Richard's father furiously dialing his phone to cancel the $1 million caterers faded into white noise as I slid back into the damp driver's seat of my Civic. True wealth is rarely announced by the roar of an imported engine or the sparkle of a financed diamond. It is, instead, found in the quiet, unshakable confidence of knowing exactly what you are worth, independent of the world's frantic applause. Society conditions us to worship the illusion of status, building empires on foundations of debt and deceit, desperately hoping the facade will hold. But the universe has a remarkably precise ledger, and arrogance is a debt that always comes due with interest. Kindness and humility are not the traits of the weak. They are the ultimate luxuries, afforded only by those whose value comes from within. When you strip away the designer labels and the borrowed castles, all that remains is the undeniable truth of your character. I drove away from the towering iron gates, the rhythmic thud of my rusted windshield wipers the only applause I would ever need, leaving them to drown in the shallow puddles of their own making.